So what happened on Wednesday is that the Chief Justice, Roxanne George, ordered that the process for the tabulation of the votes for Region Number 4 recommences by 11 a.m. today. That process never got underway. We can now listen to an interview I did earlier with Mr. Sis Gunraj, one of the commissioners on the Guyana Elections Commission, as to what exactly transpired during the day.
Latest for today is play abandoned for the day, Neil. As you're aware, we had an 11 o'clock start time mandated by the Honorable Chief Justice. Unfortunately, there was lots of controversy attending that start time. As you know, persons entitled to attend and observers, locally and internationally accredited observers, etc., were denied access at the early part of the morning. They were told that they needed new accreditation, etc. When all of that does settle, and we finally got in at around 11 a.m., the returning officer, Mr. Mingo, sought to set out some ground rules and had resort to a very obscure section of the Representation of the People's Act, which speaks about secrecy of the ballot, to use that as the basis for saying that no cell phones, etc., were allowed in the room. Unfortunately, people were so anxious to get the process started, they didn't really make objections to that, including myself. We just wanted to get the show on the road. When we actually thought that we were going somewhere, he then attempted to use the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet, he was not accompanied by any statements of poll. When queried as to the whereabouts of the statements of poll, he said they were in the building, and he undertook and gave an assurance that he'll have them there shortly. In fact, we saw him make some requests to have those spreadsheets come, and then shortly thereafter, he abandoned that undertaking, obviously getting instructions from someone else. When the Chief Justice, in her ruling yesterday, recognized that he's the master of this process. After lots of back and forth discussions, he said he was going to take a 10-minute break, but he insisted that he was going to use the spreadsheets. Before taking that break, we inquired of him whether it was the same spreadsheet that was complained about last week, and he indicated in the positive. Yes, it was the same spreadsheet, and you'd recall in the affidavits that he swore in support of his defense to the matter before the Honorable Chief Justice, he indicated that those spreadsheets were prepared by someone other than him in his absence. So, and interestingly, the Honorable Chief Justice vitiated that entire process, the process that he used to claim an ascertaining of the votes and the declaration. She vitiated all of that, and he now seeks to depend on that. I think it was very disingenuous. Notwithstanding, the chairman intervened, and the chairman said that she has a desire to have the documents, to have a copy of the judgment of the court as opposed to the order that was served by Marshall this morning. And who was the person who was serving it? The person who was serving it this morning was no less a person than the attorney at law that was representing the commission in this matter, Mr. Robin Hunt. I was present when he accompanied the marshals to do so. So up to about 4 o'clock this afternoon, when Mr. Mingo returned, apparently the chairman had not received the judgment of the court, and we did not proceed. Mr. Mingo said that he will make contact with all those persons entitled to attend to indicate when the process will restart. We did not receive any such indication, but immediately after we were asked to leave the building. Everyone complied. Everyone has left the building. God knows what happens there in our absence. But that's where we are. So we've seen some statement issued that the process will recommence at 9 tomorrow. I'm not holding my breath for that, but I'm very anxious for it to recommence.
Right. So you're an attorney at law, obviously. What happens now that the order of the court was not complied with, because the Chief Justice did rule that it should have commenced at 11 or before?
I have received a letter from Mr. Mohabir Nandlal threatening contempt proceedings, and I am named as well as an alleged contemnor in those proceedings.
Because
I'm a commissioner of the Guyana Elections Commission. Now, the misfortune here is that I am liable to contempt proceedings because of the misdeeds of another person, and that puts me in jeopardy, Neil. And all I want to see in this process is for compliance with the rule of law, compliance with the specific provisions of the Representation of the People Act as it relates to the ascertaining of the votes cast in favor of each party in the presence of the persons entitled to be there, using the statements of poll. I don't see how difficult that is. I really can't see how difficult that is.
Thank you very much,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Gunraj. Now, the People's Progressive Party, the PPP, this afternoon expressed dismay at what had transpired at the office of the returning officer.
This democracy we have to protect, this freedom we have to protect, this will of the people that we have to protect, the rights of the people, the fundamental right of the people to vote and to have their vote counted and to have their votes respected is a right that all Guyanese and the world as a whole must protect. The world as a whole and we as Guyanese must protect these rights. They're fundamental, and if we do not stand up for them, if we do not stand up, we'll be doing a great injustice to Guyana today and in the future. And as leaders of the People's Progressive Party Civic, we are going to stand up to ensure that the will of the people is heard, the will of the people is respected, and the will of the people is carried out in our country.
Now, as we have been reporting, the returning officer, Mr. Claremont Mingo, appeared at the GCOM returning office this morning with a copy of the spreadsheet that he said he had developed of the results from the statements of poll in region number 4. Now, the EU Observer Mission wrote Mr. Mingo this afternoon, copying that letter to the chairman of the Elections Commission and the other commissioners, asking to have a look at the statements of poll, which Mr. Mingo said he used in order to develop the spreadsheet he said he did. Reporting for the newsroom, I'm Neil Marks.